anymore. Uh, I guess 71 years was enough for no glasses. Now
You can be one of those
where'd
old
you,
guys now who goes
where'd
around,
you
my
go?
glasses, my
Yeah,
glasses.
I need that little monocle. I'm telling you, there's more happening now in the last 2 months than has happened in the last 4 years. If you ignore the vaccine, I mean, financially, there is so much happening. I got to say regarding the tariffs, I've just got to say it. I believe the tariffs are a device to bring about economic cooperation, investment, foreign direct investment, and bring about gigantic trade deals, investment deals toward trade, uh, to invest in treasury bonds, in plant and equipment in the United States. There was a big deal announced, I think it was yesterday perhaps or Friday, about Taiwan Semiconductor. Okay, they use a lot of AI, but they're involved in, oh gosh, I think 70% market share of the global chip market. It's just astonishing. If we can get if we can get Apple and we can get SoftBank and we can get Taiwan Semi, I think it's a really good start for a gigantic technology parade. And you watch in the next 3 or 4 weeks, you just watch Canada bend. I don't know how, I don't know what exactly Trump is pushing for regarding Canada, but he's already announced that energy products are not subject to tariff, and I don't know if that applies to Canada. We got a lot of things going on. I'm very excited about the gold market. I think we're in the midst of a default in London. Okay, I got to yield to you, and I mean this in a very complimentary, respectful way. I don't imagine I can tell you much of anything that you don't already know in the gold and silver market. But what I can add,
Oh, come on now. This young
oh
buck, I'm just
no, let
picking
me
my
qualify.
notebook up to the great doctor, and you're the
Ah,
expert, man.
let me qualify what I mean by that. Um, what I mean by that is what I might be able to add to your current greater knowledge in the gold and silver market is exogenous factors that are coming in to play. I noted 47 factors that are aiding the gold market, gold and silver, and I put that in the February report that was posted last Friday. Um, I've never posted since 2003 that many reasons. I had 25 one article I wrote. It was with goldeagle.com. It was back in 2003, a year before the newsletter was launched. I was just a young buck and I realized, these economists are pretty stupid. They work for banks, they work for the government, they're corrupt to the left or they're corrupt to the right. They don't know what the hell's going on. They're misrepresenting the gold market. And I wrote 25 reasons why gold will rise. And it did in the next 3 or 4 years. Well, now it's like, here's 47 reasons, and that's kind of a magic number with Trump. Here's 47 reasons why gold is going to go to 5,000. And it's coming. And we're going to get, oh gosh, when they break the silver market, I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't know when it's going to happen. I just know that it's going to happen. And when they do, you're going to see Fibonacci playing music 10, 20, 30, 50, 80. I have a joke that I give to people. I say 10, 20, 30, 50, 80. What's next?
Hey, Jim, just since
It's
you
130. It's 130.
thank you for that. Just since you mentioned it, you were saying there about how you see the silver market as a matter of inevitability. Did you happen to see that call I did with Rick Rule? I think it was back in December, who was involved with the PSLV trust during Silver Squeeze, and so certainly some close access to the market. He talked about how he's like, we cleared out the silver in Chicago, then we cleared out New York, then Nova Scotia, Ottawa. But the takeaway that really stood out to me is that after all he's seen and someone with his access and experience, he also said that a fracture between the paper and physical markets remains to him a matter of when rather than if. I'll send that to you later. I think you'd find it pretty
Oh, okay.
intriguing.
I, I got a quick story to tell you about Rick Rule, and this is
Okay.
funny, and it's not meant in any way to be, stupid or insulting or anything like that. It was about the second or third conference that I went to in the Cambridge House in Canada, and I went early to the speakers dinner. It was 2006. I went early to the speakers dinner and I was the first guy there because I didn't want to get lost. I was new at this, okay? It was my second year of the newsletter. No, actually 2.5 years of the newsletter. And I got there and I was the only one there. So I was minding my own business reading an article and this guy walked in and it was Rick Rule, but I didn't recognize him. And I said, hi, I guess we're early. And he recognized immediately that I didn't recognize him. And he was really modest about it. And he said, you're Jim Willie? And I said, yeah, I just started a newsletter a couple of years ago. And I'm kind of new at this. So I came early so I wouldn't get lost. I don't know Vancouver very well. I said, what's your name? He said, Rick. Just Rick. I knew who Rick Rule was, but I didn't recognize him. So we were talking away. We're talking for 20 minutes, and the other people come in, and he said, well, nice meeting you, Jim. Good luck. Um, he was probably the nicest, most encouraging person at the conferences in the next 2 years. I was there for 4 years. I did 15 conferences. And he told me once, Jim, you bring a different angle to this. I know you're a statistical guy, but you bring in a different angle. You bring in currency, economy, and that's what I try to do, the exogenous factors. And he said, you're entertaining. Don't lose that. Don't lose that. And I said, no, no, I don't think I could if I tried. And we laughed and he walked away. It took me 24 hours to learn that that was Rick Rule. It was a friend of mine. I said, I said, yeah, there's a guy I met. There's a guy I met at the dinner last night. His name was Rick. He said, Jim, that's Rick Rule. What? Okay, pretty funny. It was funny. Very, I was naive. I didn't know people. Um, I met Bill Murphy. Bill Murphy was with me in Munich when I got the death threat. Bill Murphy was really nice to me, calming me down. I mean, he held my arm and offered me a glass of wine. I said, no, pineapple juice will be fine. But I was jittery. I was jittery all day. That November day in 2006 in Munich, a death threat from Homeland Security. Homeland
Yeah,
Security.
well, look at how you've overcome, which is obviously the
Yeah,
most important thing. And,
yeah.
going back 2003, I guess that was before you had your cult-like fan status on the internet. So glad you got to meet Rick. And Jim, if I could take one more question about something you said earlier. You were talking about the technology aspect. I was curious, have you heard much about that battery that Samsung has developed, the new, more powerful EV battery that I believe it was like 2.2 pounds of silver, so substantially more. It's interesting. I did read that it's not just, well, they're making it and thinking about it now, but that they are in the trial period where other companies are using it. I've seen the numbers. If 10 or 20% of the EV market adopts it and the size of the EV market stays the same or gets bigger, it would be, it looks like it could come out to a couple hundred more million more ounces of silver. I would love to know if you had any thoughts on that one.
I actually wrote about that. It was honestly about 6 or 8 months ago, and I cannot remember all the details, except that it was very impressive uh, specifications. Its performance was very, very impressive. And I remember back then, I think it was about last summer. It was in the newsletter, mid 2024. And as I recall, they said in their own specifications and their own rollout plans that it was 2 years away. And I thought, well, the market has a way of pushing that a little faster when there's a bigger profit. People will work overtime and they'll just get more partnerships and they'll get it done. Um, I tend to think that we're going to see a revolutionary break with more advanced batteries, but we're also going to see the fuel cell. We're going to see hydrogen and oxygen brought together and making very powerful cars with water emissions. This is going to be really interesting, and silver will be a big player in the fuel cell car. And Samsung is a an up and coming powerhouse, but I got to tell you, it's going to be Toyota. It's it's going to be Toyota. They've already got oh gosh, see if I can get this right. Okay, now methane is NH3, nitrogen, three hydrogens. And I've been wondering for the last 5 to 10 years, how are they going to deliver the hydrogen for a car, for an engine, without having a tank that would blow up the city block if there's a car accident? And the answer is ammonia. Oh gosh, did I say methane? I didn't. I'm sorry, I misspoke. It's not methane, it's ammonia. Ammonia has a lot of hydrogen, and what Toyota has done is they built a turbo engine with water mixed with ammonia, and that delivers the hydrogen. So it's an ammonia tank. And I can't remember, golly, is ammonia? I know methane. No, ammonia is NH3. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Methane is CH. Oh gosh, it's been a long time since chemistry, my advanced placement chemistry senior year in high school. Okay, methane is, I think, CH4, carbon, hydrogen. Could you check? I think it's CH4. And ammonia is NH3. The key to Toyota is,
CH4, you are correct.
okay, and ammonia NH3. Um, it's been a long time. My God, I'm talking 53 years since high school grad. Long in the tooth, huh? All right, Chris, Toyota's got turbocharged methane supply of hydrogen. And in their prototype, their only complaint was this thing is 0 to 60 in 40 seconds. That was their complaint. 0 to 60 in 30 to 40 seconds. And then they said, well, let's turbo this. And they did, and they got some really good performance. Toyota's going to be leader in the class. And we better get in line. We better get Toyota building cars in the United States and sharing the technology. Um, and you know what they're going to do? They're going to share treasury bonds. They're going to do plant and equipment. It's debt for equity. You're probably all over this too. The Department of Treasury is going to issue credits in return for treasury bonds submitted, and the credits are going to be good for plant and equipment, supply, training, land purchases, you name it. And this is how we're going to get reindustrialized, but it's not going to be fast. This took 30 years. This took 40 years. I remember this. This is a very seminal, important event in my life. It was autumn of '84, and it was my buddy John, my buddy Bob, my boss Jack, and me in my office talking about a Wall Street Journal article about chip fabrication plants being sent to the Pacific Rim. And we joked and we said, well, those little Asian women, they got small hands, they can do all that chip work. Okay, that's the joke. The reality is that we got bankrupted. I said to John, Bob, and Jack, 3 or 4 or 5 years, we're going to have a national bankruptcy problem. That was Black Monday in '87. So it was 3 years later. We're going to have a return of manufacturing, a return of industry, Chris, and it's exciting. But the hard part is how it's going to happen. It's not an easy matter to convert treasury bonds into plant and equipment for productive manufacturing sites. And it's going to be loaded with AI. And I'm a little bit fearful of AI. I don't really care to discuss it too much. But Trump is using tariffs to get agreements. and watch the agreements that Canada makes, because they already created a fentanyl, a fentanyl czar. It's not fentanyl, you people, it's fentanyl with a Y. Um, Canada created a fentanyl czar and then kind of removed all the power from that office. So there's no fentanyl enforcement across the Canadian border. Okay. Remember, China got flooded by opium 120, 30 years ago, whatever. We're getting flooded by fentanyl and cocaine, our nation, and it is doing severe damage to our society. I've already had 2 consult calls, and they were both women. They're each women, and each one had a daughter who was killed by fentanyl. So, uh, except for that, I haven't heard of any deaths. I know that there are deaths. Okay, watch Canada comply with whatever Trump is arguing, and you know he's going to want to turn on the energy spigot in order to make gasoline, diesel, um, and just gas supply, make it cheaper. He's going to want lower fuel and lower cost electricity. Okay, I learned a long time ago. I'm a self-taught economist, and I have a saying in my bio from a way back. I'm unencumbered by the limitations of economics credentials. Okay, there are 2 major factors for an economy to lower prices. It's interest rates and the cost of energy. And
See,
that's
Jim, see, you have the advantage. You didn't sit through Jeremy Siegel's class at Wharton. You didn't get nailed with that one. So
no, no, I caught a little bit of him on CNBC, and I thought, well, he makes some sense, but when he talks about Keynesianism, that's just
he was my
cupola.
teacher back in 2004. That was when I was in business school, and I'm, going down there thinking just pay attention, try and learn something. And he's explaining how if the economy's weak, Fed comes along, and so right in line with a lot of the other stuff that you hear out there in Wall Street today. But
Well, the Keynesian line. And you know what's really tragic is that John Maynard Keynes did not believe in excessive debt. He believed in paying down debt during the expansion years, and we didn't, because we believed in the forever war and the what do they call it, the social welfare net. So with social welfare net and war, we had a big deficit in good times. That's not what Keynes advocated. He didn't advocate big government either. Anyway, that is one name that's been bastardized and really butchered in the economic textbooks, and it's really quite sad. Keynes made a lot of good sense. Now, if you're a household, move from macro to micro, which I do a lot when I make arguments. If you're a household and you're unemployed and you're undergoing worker training, and your kid is just graduated from college and he's still living at home and he's about ready to get a job too, you can go into debt a little bit, and then you get a job and your son gets a job and everything starts flowing and you pay off your debt in the next year and a half, and you're moving in a good gear. That's not the way the United States has treated debt. We went to war. I think, it's not a real mystery. We broke the gold standard because of the cost of the Vietnam War. And the Vietnam War happened before your time, before, when you were becoming, a young man, graduating in college and all that. I was in the 1971 draft lottery for Vietnam, 1971.